All right, we are live.
Hello, everybody. We are very happy to welcome you again to the Co-Creator Blast number 3. And today we are going to talk about luck. Did you know? Because what's day today? It's St. Patrick's Day. So we are going to drink some beer, but not yet, because we are going to talk about something else before. And the topic of today is this idea of creativity, innovation, how to co-create simply. But first, let me introduce you our first host, Elizabeth Lemke. She is the Chief Talent Navigator, and she helps you transforming talent. I forgot my S there. And so she does people and culture consultancy for organizations. And you wonder, who am I? Probably. I am Anne-Cécile Graeber. I'm an intercultural coach with an OD, organizational development background. And I just love to help people go further in their career and wherever they are on Earth. So what is the co-creator space? Why should you watch this video until the end? We are co-creating with Elizabeth a system to help you systematically change the approach to solution finding. And we offer you for that an awesome program in 6 modules. And this is for you as an individual or as an organization. So when we say you, feel that we're talking to you personally, but you also as an organization. We have created our own definition of co-creation. And what we say about co-creation is the following. Co-creation is a prerequisite for innovation. It is based on a common why, and it welcomes plurality of expertise, of perspective, and of insights to build adaptive solutions. And obviously for us, the ownership is always shared. And so I will leave Elizabeth with the song.
Perfect. Thank you, Anne-Cécile. So like she said, today we're looking, the third blast is Lucky Did You Know? So we're going to be talking about the social research as to what is the foundation for the co-creation. So, and it had to go with Daft Punk. I mean, really, there was no other option, particularly when they put out the one with Pharrell Williams. So the lyrics that we really liked were, and here I will attempt not to sing because this is a hard one. This is the one you sing in the shower or in the car. Like the legend of the phoenix, it all ends with beginnings. What keeps the planet spinning? The force from the beginning. We've come too far to give up who we are. So let's raise the bar and then raise our cups to the stars.
So the cup.
We were up all night to get lucky. So we couldn't do it just now. All right. So, but that's that piece around, you know, here, how are we understanding, you know, here, how are we leveling up? So here, what is that piece around? Yeah, we've come this far, but as we look to, and particularly it's very apt considering the current situation worldwide in terms of the pandemic health crisis, it really is that piece to ask, how are we like a phoenix rising up from the ashes? And what does that mean? How are we taking this new world order that we've created to say, okay, here, what does this mean for us? And so this is why, like Anne-Cécile said, how do we look at innovation? How do we look at collaboration? How do we look at shared ownership as we come into this next stage around what collaboration and what innovation and what even where we work looks like. And so today it's really going to be around how do we know what those kind of future focused and evolving organizations, what do they look like? What do they feel like? We like to say that being in a co-creation space and a co-creator is similar to being like on a scavenger hunt where you're tapping into expertise, where you're really looking at how do we make different connections, how do we do associative thinking, how do we get beyond what we've known, and that it's fun and future work capable. So that's really this piece to say, as we look to future forward organizations, there are a couple of really key things that describe them. They're very deliberative around how they collaborate and how they enter into courageous partnerships. So looking beyond just perhaps alliances with someone who's similar, but really thinking outside the box as to how can we really stretch what is needing to be done, and having the courage to go into those partnerships and not just arguing NDAs. The second one is looking at how open and authentic is the communication. So we like to say that conflict is an opportunity because it means people care. So here, how is the open communication that there's a really brave space that people can speak up, even if, and particularly if they have a different opinion or come from a different viewpoint. The leadership. Okay, so this is a really interesting thing, is what is the effective leadership? It's really based upon that social contract and trust. So here I'm entering into not just because you're my employer, but I'm also looking for how I will grow and what impact we can have together. And so the social contract of leadership looks different. The fourth area around the culture is how are we really fostering innovation curiosity? Not just we've always done it this way, or that's what the process says, but how are we really looking at encouraging curiosity? And also technological thinking. So as systems advance, as the technology that we have at our fingertips is increasing, it's really that piece to say, how do we leverage it rather than having a system control what we're trying to accomplish, but really having technology support what we're trying to do. The fifth one, and this is really pertinent to the current situation, is that piece around how do we have a common purpose in dispersed teams and in mixed teams. So nowadays there's a variety. You have freelancers, you have vendors, you have cross-functional, you have cross-locational teams. You have different setups. You know, here, just this morning, for example, Al Roker, he's a meteorologist in the US. He did the national weather from his kitchen table. So this piece around how are we having dispersed teams coming together and finding unity and also feeling connected to those teams is really key. The sixth one is looking at how are we upskilling. So looking at what are those new competencies that are needed in the world of evolving jobs. You know, whose job is the same as it was 3 years ago? Not many of us. And as we look to the rapid pace of change, particularly with the current events, this is also affecting how we work. So that's why the final earmark and looking at a future focused and how are we evolving is looking at what is that speed, adaptability, agility, as well as the ability to integrate learning from different angles. So this is why those are the earmarks of what a future-focused organization looks like, what a co-creation environment looks like. And now the question is, okay, that's nice to know, Anne-Cecile and Elizabeth, but what's the research say? And so this is why this third blast is really saying, okay, we've talked about a lot of things. What's the research say to really support our claims and our findings and our foundation of the co-creator space program?
Yeah, and then I will start with the first research. It's a research from 2018 from Red Thread Research, and they looked at the uniquely human characteristic of a company for nimbleness and financial performance, and they found out there were 3 of them. The first one is storytelling. Telling story in an organization, being able to make sense of what's happening around us is really important. That's the first thing. The second one was or is collaborating, bringing people together and having them collaborate, do things together. And the third one was envisioning a different future. And this is a very big part where we think of storytelling first. Okay, we have to have something that makes sense. We have to understand what we're talking about, in which situation we are and in which direction we are going, telling a story about it, collaborating to go into this direction, and then being able to see what we can't see yet. So imagining what could be. And that's the very big part about this research and those 3 uniquely human characteristics. because a dog can't do that and a machine either. So those are the things we have as human beings that we can do in organizations. There was a second research from 2019 from I4CP Research, and it's about culture renovation. And renovation, like renovating a house. You already have something and you just want to improve some of the areas, or something is broken and you just want to repair it. And what they saw is that engagement surveys are not helping you to understand what makes an organization healthy, and how this, it's not also giving you any information about how the organization will perform. So maybe you have engaged employees, and there was so much things done about employee engagement. I still remember that from my master degree, we had just one course about employee engagement because this was the thing to look at. But what did they find in the I4CP research? They realized that if you focus on high performance culture, you have 1.5 to 3.5 more chances to have innovation, collaboration, and that brings simply the best in employees. And so it's not looking at engagement, it's looking about the high performance culture, creating a culture in your company where people are able and encouraged to be high performers, alone and as teams. Then we have a third one. So because it's not enough, 2 is not enough, and we will have more than 2. In 2019, PwC and Imperative Research looked at 3 hallmarks of fulfilling experience at work. And what did they find out? First, one of the most important things to have a fulfilling experience at work is the relationship you have there. It is to have a sense of belonging. I am part of the team, I am part of the organization, and I'm connected with others. The second one was impact. People see the progress they have toward the goal, and they believe in this goal. And so they feel that whatever they're doing, it has an impact on the small, but also on the big story of the company. And the third one is growth. People love personal challenge and they want to overcome them. They just want to grow. That's a tendency that we all have. And so they realize that a fulfilled employee brings higher performance, longer tenure, they will stay in your organization way longer, and they will be promoters of your organization. Mm-hmm. And do I do the next one, or you want to take over?
No, I can do the next one. Absolutely. So, and I think what's interesting, what you just talked about here, Anne-Cécile, is these 2 ones, the one from Imperative and PwC, as well as the Institute for Corporate Productivity, they're really talking about what it means to have a learning culture. So there's a saying, watch them grow or see them go. And these really speak to that high performance learning culture around how are they innovative and how are people feeling, it's not all about engagement, because the engagement is kind of like the happy score, but this real piece of fulfillment is also that pride in your work. And that feeling like your contribution is growing. And exactly like Anne-Cécile said, there are different, some of us, when we're at work, the relationships that we have, the connections that we have, the people we're learning from, that's really what we thrive on. There's going to be other people who are looking at how am I growing? How am I getting challenges that really make a difference? Others are going to be talking about how I make an impact. So as we look to these 3 things as organizations, and if you're looking to say, what is that fulfilled employee, you need to be able to understand what are those different hallmarks as to how does an employee play out here within these 3 areas. Because that will then help you with the culture renovation to really say, okay, how are you taking that stem cell of what made you great at the beginning and how that stem cell of innovation, and how do you really embrace it within each individual employee within the teams so that you can really have that high performance culture, just to connect those 2 together.
Yeah. Exactly. Always connecting is nice.
Yes, exactly. The 4th, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the 5th one as well, because there's a lot of talk about agility. It was definitely the the shiny penny. And I say specifically agility rather than agile, because I think people oftentimes got the two confused, hoping that being agile would give them more agility. Unfortunately, this is not the case in all cases, because agile was quite often just done as a methodology, and within certain groups, within certain projects, it really makes a lot of sense to go agile. But when you're looking at agility, there are different things that you have to look at. So here, Accenture had a study that they did way back in 2015, where it was about the future of work and the future of HR research. And they looked in to say, okay, what is agility? Agility really is that ability to anticipate, sense, and be able to respond to volatility in the markets. Okay, so this is that piece of what happens. So for example, a black swan event, or like we say, the day after Thanksgiving turkey event, or here with the coronavirus, to say, okay, here, what is that competitive advantage of agility, which is really that piece around what is the adaptability, speed, and execution, that those really make the biggest difference. So this is that piece to say, as we look to organizations along this path, how do they execute their strategy more than less agile rivals? How do they respond purposefully and very meaningfully to short-term urgencies? How are they able to reskill their workforce in order to meet changing needs? How are they able to change their business models as readily? And then really also respond to what the customer needs. So these are big pieces to look at from the research, but the thing that they were looking at is, are they change capable? Meaning, can and do people consistently question, is there a better way to do this? Are we perhaps standing in our own way? Are there barriers to innovation actually getting through? So those are the things that the Accenture research found out. And that pulls into the last piece of research that we wanted to talk about, which is the piece to say, it's no longer, and we talked about this in our last blast, it's no longer about direct competitive advantage. It's really about how are we having an innovative advantage, because it's a piece to say innovation markets. It's not just how am I faster than the runner next to me. It's really looking at how are we having a unique viewpoint and a unique answer to the challenges that are in front of us. So in 2018, the Harvard Business Review did a research around what is disruptive and what is radical innovation, really putting a focus on what is disruptive innovation, because this is increasing as new companies enter into the marketplace and challenge those incumbent firms. And really often despite having inferior resources. But there is something to say that these organizations that are disruptive, that what they really are keen at is understanding what are the needs of the customer and using this agility to respond to the customer needs and being able to draw those things in. That's the entire spirit of co-creation, which is how do we draw in a unique group of expertise to be better able to get adaptive solutions that really make sense and fit to a user's needs, rather than just looking for how do we rework in a continuous innovation what we've already done.
Yeah. Satisfying the customer's needs at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly. So to that, you know, we've balled you with the 6 pieces of pertinent research that really built the foundation as to what Anne-Cécile introduced as our 6 modules. You know, so each one draws in a little bit of a different aspect as to this is the research, how can we actually apply it? And how do we make it meaningful for what we're trying to accomplish and what we're trying to do? And so as you go forward and as you look at, you know, here, is it luck or are we doing this purposefully? Really think about, engage for yourself in your own team and organization. How deliberative are we with and courageous are we with our collaboration and our partnerships? How authentic and open are we in our communication? Do we allow divergent voices? How do we encourage them? How is our leadership? Are we leading via 1% versus the 99%? Or do we understand our social contract and the trust that is important to effectively lead in this new world order? How are we fostering, and how is your organization fostering innovative curiosity and technological thinking? Is there a common purpose, particularly as we look to now, really creating a sense, what is that purpose of your team? You know, what really draws, what is that, why do you guys exist? What is it that the customer is really looking at you to do and what they're excited about? So that's a really key one. Now we go for that gauge of the one around your upskilling and your new competence. So how are you learning new skills? What are you looking at how your role will evolve, not only within the last 2 weeks in terms of how it's changed and how you have to have some technological expertise you perhaps didn't have before, but really thinking about what are those things that come onto your purview and how are you learning? Because the final gauge is really looking at here, what is the speed, adaptability, agility, and also that integrative thinking of co-creation that is in your team. So those are just kind of those little earmarks as you go through and as you think about what does co-creator space mean to me, how could it be applicable to what I'm doing and what we're trying to accomplish as a team. Those are just some little gauge points to help you along that path.
Yeah, and I think for the end of the blast, we always go with a question, and the question we thought about was the following. What will happen to your organization in 3 years if you manage innovation as you do today? I guess you already have an image in your head. Well, we will be happy to have the image shared with us as a comment or
Yep.
you know, or as an email, or maybe we said something about innovation, about upskilling that raised your attention and you would like to know more, then you should just contact us. We are open for discussions and we'll be very happy to exchange with you.
Perfect. Perfect. And that really is that piece to say, that's why we picked out Daft Punk, Get Lucky. And as we kind of sign off from today's blast, just remember the lines, like the legend of the phoenix, it all ends with beginnings. What keeps the planet spinning? The force from the beginning. We've come too far to give up who we are, so let's raise the bar and our cups to the stars. So here, we encourage you, this is a challenging time right now, but it is also a time to say, how do we not adapt to survive, but really think about how are we adapting to thrive? And so as you heard a couple of interesting pieces of research to say, okay, here things do and they can look different, and what that impact that we have, this is important for how we grow and the relationships that we build. So we thank you for attending. We also want to give you a little bit of a clue in. We are going to be meeting up again on Tuesday, March 31st, same time, 6:30 CET, Berlin time. We'll be talking about being a learning fool. Sorry, what was that, Anne-Cécile?
I just said, for those who can't read CET, it's Berlin time. You know,
that's what it said, exactly.
That, and I think I spoke over you. So the next topic is be a learning fool.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for attending. We wish you all a wonderful St. Patrick's Day, good health, and be safe out there.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.